We've arranged a way to visit one of the communities where we are working. In fact, it's the community where, in many ways, the ministry began. And so if you'll just sit back and relax, we're going to take you by van, which is always the way we travel, down from the city of Choluteca to the community called La Fortunita. Leaving the city, we go out of town on a road that's very much like the roads we drive here in the United States. Hard asphalt. But that doesn't last very long. And pretty quickly, we make a left turn onto a road that, it would probably work well as a pasture access for a tractor or for an old pickup truck. But the reality is that for commercial vehicles like the people use for everyday driving, these roads are pretty hard. They're paved or graded every now and then, but the rocks pretty much get scattered into the ditches. And when it rains, it's terrible, isn't it, Jim?
It's very terrible. The roads just get so terrible that sometimes you can't even pass them. And sometimes you can't get to the communities where we work.
Now, going out along the road, though, as you bounce around, you do get to see some pretty cool stuff, right?
I want to go ahead and pause that video right here. And one of the things that we wanted to, kind of a tour on the way there, we just passed, you saw a video of the solar fields there, and there's these big fields of solar panels, and those have been really crucial and beneficial to La Fortunita, especially our communities right by them. The government worked with independent contractors, and because they were allowed to build these fields and this land, that provided electricity for the community. The contracting company built the fence around the church, and so it's been really beneficial for the community that is right next to that to be able to do that. And that is also kind of like the last thing you pass before you get there. So you know when you see the solar fields, you know you're close. And if we want to keep rolling, right past those solar fields, you're going to come down this road, and there's going to be puddles, and they might be 6 inches deep, they might be 1.5 feet deep. You never really know until you get into it. But you're going to come through it, and you're going to come right down into this creek, and this is kind of the line for La Fortunita. You can see right there, there's that pole with the yellow on the bottom and the red on the top. So that creek a lot of times looks like that. Sometimes it's bone dry. But during the rainy season, it can get pretty high, and you'll see that red line, that water gets up there. It means you don't want to take your car through it for sure.
In fact, that's something that we have to keep an eye on if it's the rainy season, because we have had groups on more than one occasion who've been trapped in the community overnight, which is not a bad thing per se.
No, it's awesome.
But it's still not the regular part of the trip. It leads some interesting uncomfortabilities, if that's a word. So anyway, you come up, and immediately out of the creek bed, you'll begin to see the community there on the left. They're houses that have been built with mud and with stick, and people have lived their entire lives there. They've learned how to survive there. That's the life they know. You come into the community, you turn left, and I think John talked about it being like a moment of coming home, or at least a second home.
It's my favorite left-hand turn on the planet, man. You take that left into La Fortunita, and it is this homecoming, and your friends run out to greet you, and there's hugs, and there's lollipops for the kids, and everybody starts playing soccer, and it just is really an incredible thing. It's the best feeling,
precious time
I've ever had.
Of course, they're all coming to see Grandpa Jim.
Yeah, none of them actually care about us. It's all for Jim, but they do run out.
I have about 300 grandchildren right here in this community.
This is just walking through the community here, and you can see there's just more of the adobe houses there. There was one cinder block house there, and that's pretty uncommon for the area. I mean, I would say 98% of the homes are going to be out of this adobe brick.
So let's pause right there on that tree for a minute, because that, in many ways, is where Honduras Ministries began. Jim can tell the story about how they began to have Bible studies there, right?
That's exactly right. We did that several years ago, and Francis and I were discussing today, when exactly did we start? The oldest member of our ministry started in 2003. We didn't actually do these Bible studies at that time. I think it was 2006 when we got here. But we began working in this community, teaching Bible lessons right under this tree that you see.
And I remember on my first visit to Honduras, we met here for Sunday morning worship. I preached under this tree. We had a wonderful, the entire community, well, almost the entire community. There were some individuals that were pretty resistant to begin with. We'll actually refer to that in a minute. But we came together, we worshiped. It was extraordinary for me. And now to think here all these years later, we've continued to work with that community, and there are so many lives that have been transformed through that work. So going on, you'll see over here to the left, you've got some of the well trucks, maybe. That's the community. The transportation that people use to make their living, to cart things from one place to the next. And we continue on going on through the community to see more homes, more of the citizens of La Fortunita, and one of the key places, though, perhaps the most key place, is the well that's in the town.
Yes, I would say so.
And that well, there's a good bit of history, a key moment of history for Honduras Ministries as a result of that well.
Right, that's where we gain credibility from the community. You'll see it in a few minutes or a few moments. And that's where because we promised we would do something, we carried through with that. And they had told us so many different times and the people of the community would say, people promise everything, and they never come through. They'll come out and promise something, we never see them again. But we were consistent on purpose. This was our calling, to go there and help this community. I didn't know it at the time, but when we installed that pump, that is what brought confidence into the people there, and that's where we gained our credibility.
And there was at least one member of the community that was extremely resistant as you were putting that pump in, right?
Yeah, it was. He was blessing me out. And I didn't know enough Spanish to know what he's saying. I'm glad I didn't know. I might have flogged him, but no, it was very special. And later on, this man, 86 years old, came to our Lord. Amen.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the pump was a great boost to the community. And then as a follow-up, Jim was also able to make arrangements to build a water tower that we're going to see. And that's all become very helpful in providing water to the entire community. There are some homes that actually have water piped through PVC, and because of the tower that's there, right, they're able to have water flow into their homes. And that's a very, very important step for them. Here you see the community gathering place where they can get access to running water, the washboard that's there that they wash their clothes in. And of course, you know how important water is to life of everyone.
One important thing about the running water is one of the churches here in Kansas City, Kansas Mission Church, actually came down and dug that canal and put in that pipe for the running water to that community.
This is just really typical for a house in the community of La Fortunita, and so that you see the adobe, the brick and stick mortar there. Hammock, I think, Francis, you got to tell me, I'm pretty sure every Honduran has a hammock. I love it personally. I always sleep in the one at Jim and Francis's house. Very typical, just kind of a bed situation. There's a full family that lives in here. And we're going to pause the video right here for a second. You'll see here on the right-hand side of your screen is right where it says Cholateca. This was the point that I wanted to make with Jim when Jim started talking about credibility with the community. Is there was a Rotary Club that came in to kind of like all the small villages around there, yeah, and dropped off these water filters. These are cement water filters, and they were great. They were functional. They worked well, and it was something that could have been used. But there was no relationship. There was no continuity. There was no staying power. They dropped off this gift, said, "Here you go, thanks." No anything about maintenance, not how to take care of it, not how to use it properly. And because of that, what you'll see now is you'll see these kind of all over the place. People use them as their nightstands. I've seen a person use it as a bookshelf. There's a couple of them that have just kind of been left off to the side of the road and are broken. But everywhere you go, and these small towns throughout Cholateca that we operate in, you'll see these Rotary Club filters, which was a great idea. It was a great gift. I'm not knocking their desire to give people water filters, but without relationship, it ended up becoming a wasted effort. And that's why one of the first things that I fell in love with personally with Honduras Ministries is the staying power and is the continuity. And they are confident that when we say we're going to do something, that we're going to do it. And And I love that. That was one of the very first things that I fell in love with. So, well, yeah, we'll keep watching the video here.
Wait there.
And in many ways, the faithfulness that was developed in working with La Fortanita became a cornerstone in reaching into other communities as well. And following that same sense of being faithful, being willing to follow up, building for a long-term relationship. And Jim and Francis are masters at that, and really I'm so thankful for their influence and their faithfulness over the course of time. So of course, we talked about the well being a key place where people gather. There's no accident that Jesus talked about himself as the water of life. Because just as water is so incredibly important for our well-being physically, Jesus is the water, the source of life for us spiritually. And as we approach the church building that's been built now in La Fortanita, it's probably the second most important gathering place. Here, so many things take place. The Sunday morning worship, but as you'll see as we go inside, it's not set up in a traditional Sunday morning way. It's set up more for during the course of the week. And during the course of the week, there are children's programs that take place here, part of our programs. There are also youth groups that gather during the course of the week. From time to time, we'll come to La Fortanita to share medical brigade and do a wellness check on the kids. So all of this is taking place in the church building, and we're using that as a tool that transforms lives. And you're seeing the future right here. This is what it always comes back to. These children. And yes, we want to transform lives now, but even more important, we want to see the future being transformed. And the way we're doing that is by touching the lives of the kids here and now and helping them to learn what their future could become.
Yeah, and we talked, when we were just doing a little run through before we started, we were talking about something that Jim said that has really just stuck with me for a really long time. Is probably years ago he said it. He said, education is the blanket with which we will extinguish the flames of poverty in Honduras. And we believe that. I mean, lots of people go into places and plant churches. I love the fact that we plant schools because we believe in education and we believe in educating these kids to elevate themselves out of poverty. And I love that we work through the local churches, but education is our goal, because it's not just the here and now. We want to help them in the long term. And I think I've been on the board, I think now for 5 years, so I'm kind of coming in. Even at 5 years, it feels like I came in late to the game. I mean, Jim and Francis have really done such a good job of setting that up and having that crystal clear kind of laser beam focus on education. And it took a while to get there. We all know that, but once we got there, they just took the ball and ran with it. And anyway.
One of the things I hope that's coming through is the fact that you're looking at 4 people whose lives have been radically transformed as a result of being a part of this ministry.